Between 1983 and 2014, the Sony Radio Academy Awards were the definitive measure of validation in British broadcasting, the industry's highest honors. For decades, the archetypal winners were the broadcasting elite, figures who mastered safe, polished, and universally appealing formats to maintain their massive reach. Even the high-energy modern stars who conquered the industry did so by keeping their audiences perfectly entertained and comfortable within familiar boundaries. But the record for the most Sony Awards ever won doesn't belong to a polished establishment figure. It belongs to their exact opposite. This is Andy Kershaw. He began his career in the same office as broadcasting mavericks like John Peel, eventually amassing a personal record collection that weighed over 7 tons. Kershaw earned his industry records not by studying audience retention, but by completely ignoring what the public said they wanted. Throughout 25 years at the BBC, Kershaw maintained an uncompromising philosophy regarding the people listening to his shows. His motto was, "We're not here to give the public what it wants. We're here to give the public what it didn't know it wanted." This is the antithesis of the modern media landscape. Most creators today operate within a closed loop, using safe, repetitive data to feed an algorithm. When you rely purely on metrics, you hit a plateau. It stops discovery and forces a creative stagnation. Kershaw's career was a high-stakes bet on the opposite, that unpredictable curation could win over an audience better than any data-driven strategy. Before he ever touched a radio fader, Kershaw was already a massive promoter, running major rock gigs at Leeds University as a teenager. He spent his early years working alongside the giants of the rock industry, including the Rolling Stones. He was a rock and roll insider who promoted shows for Bruce Springsteen just before he made the pivot into broadcasting. But upon joining the BBC, he didn't lean on his rock credentials. He used his airtime to force unfamiliar global sounds onto a mainstream audience. He filled his slots with soukous, roots reggae, rye, and South African township jive, music the British public had never been exposed to on this scale. This refusal to follow mainstream trends didn't alienate the industry, it stunned them. In 1987, the Academy gave him the Sony Gold Award for Specialist Music. By refusing to play the hits, he became a cultural gatecrasher, proving that an audience could be led into entirely new genres if the curation was fearless enough. This obsessive curiosity eventually pushed him out of the sound booth and into the field, sparking a complete transformation in his reporting. He eventually visited 97 countries, operating as a self-described rock and roll war correspondent for Radio 4 and the broadsheets. He took his listeners inside heavily monitored, dangerous states like North Korea. He reported from the middle of active conflict zones in Iraq. He filed dispatches from unstable regions like Sierra Leone and Haiti, often surrounded by armed men in areas facing systemic collapse. To Kershaw, the mission was always the same. Whether he was playing a Caribbean dance track or reporting from a war zone, he was acting as a guide. His talent was his ability to drag the listener into the unknown, trusting that the discovery itself would be enough to keep them there. By the time he was DJing festivals like Witchwood in the mid-2010s, Kershaw had spent most of his life proving that he didn't need to follow the crowd to win. Cultural figures like Stephen Fry eventually recognized this approach, calling him the finest British broadcaster bar none and a real achiever in the field. The Radio Academy validated this experiment year after year. Beyond specialist music, they gave him the 2002 Speech Award for A Caribbean Night and a 2004 win for his reporting on the Festival in the Desert. This chart shows the choice facing any modern creator. On one side, the safe path of following the algorithm, which often leads to a creative plateau. On the other, the high-risk path of the curator, who prioritizes discovery over data. Kershaw's career suggests that long-term success isn't found by following an audience's current tastes, but by having the courage to lead them somewhere they didn't even know they wanted to go.